everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Dreams to Destiny conversation series. One of the reasons we keep doing these conversations is basically to instill hope, courage, encourage you, and tell you that your dreams are valid. You have permission to dream. So many times in life, we all have dreams. We're born with different purposes and unique passion and desires. But over time in life, with all maybe the negative experiences we've gone through and our perspectives change, and we usually end up, or we decide to resign into this less best version of ourselves. So with that background, when we had to decide on a topic for today or this episode, we thought one of a relevant topic would be to unpack a parallel or a connection between the two concepts of career versus calling. Now, I'm sure we all are a part and parcel of different careers we are a part of in this life. But are we all truly fulfilling our calling, being a part of that career? Is career and calling the same, or is there a difference? I recently read a quote which said, "Career is something which we are paid for, but calling is something which we are born for and made for." So when we had to decide on who is going to unpack this conversation or this topic for us, we could not think of somebody else rather than today's guest. She's an amazing, wonderful woman leader we really look up to, and a very good friend of ours. Her name is Mireille Karera. And one of the reasons we decided to have her talk on this topic is because we truly believe she's somebody who has fearlessly embraced her calling in all seasons of her life.
So with that said, we want to introduce our dear friend Mireille Karera. Mireille, welcome to our show. And I just want to say a few words about Mireille before we get into our discussion. So Mireille, you wear many hats. You're a leadership trainer, you're a public speaker, recently an author as well, and a leadership trainer as well, CEO of a training academy. And I definitely see, we met actually about 2014, we met in Israel. That was a wonderful time to meet you. And we've been in touch all these years, but I think more closely in the last few years, right? And one thing we really see about you is that you have had a very successful career in the financial services industry. And you have actually gone beyond just being satisfied with a successful career. You have actually pursued your calling the way we can see it. Mm-hmm. We know that right now you are the founder and CEO of one of the first professional coaching academies in Rwanda, if I'm right. So we just want to introduce this topic of career versus calling, and just want to share some of my opening remarks where when I think of the word career, I see, okay, it's a way to pay my bills, right? It's a way to sustain my lifestyle, a way to have some financial security and maybe even social status. But when you think about calling, I get to think about a purpose, a deeper purpose. And especially at this show that we do, Dreams to Destiny, we always want to emphasize the fact that every person, every human being has a purpose that's unique and powerful. And we just look at our fingerprints, like each of our fingerprints are so unique. Our facial features are so unique. Not only that, even the way that we think, we reason and solve problems is so unique, right? So in the past, and that's partly due to some of the educational background that I have, I've always thought of putting myself into a box or trying to find the perfect box that I can fit into. I thought I wanted to be an aerospace engineer as a child, as a kid. But then looking back, Jane and I have chosen a path, trying to find the path that's more unique to each one of us. Yeah. So can you start by sharing a bit about yourself, Mireille, and what do you think about career versus calling? And specifically, I would like you to answer the question of, do you think each person has a unique calling? Would you like to elaborate on that?
Thank you, Joey, once again, and also Jane for having me on your show. It's certainly a wonderful topic to be selected to speak on, as it is something that is dear to my heart. So I really commend you for wanting your audience to know more about the difference between the career and the calling. So back to, before I answer your two questions, I just wanted to re-emphasize how we met in 2013, and also just wanted to honor you guys with something that I got in Mumbai, and also something that I got in Israel from Kim Clement back in 2013. So you know,
remember that.
you remember that, right? So there is a scripture somewhere there that is unwrapping this. Basically, as you pointed out, Joey, I think it is important to define what is a career versus calling. And I like what Jen said about the career being something that we are paid for, and the calling being something we are made for. So what is to do, and how do we fulfill our unique path, which I agree with your statement on. So I do believe that all of us come to this earth to solve a number of problems that are similar, but in the process of that, it is narrowed down to one specific thing that only Joey can do, or Jane can do, or Mireille, or the audience can do. Now, that process really, it's something that may not come easily. It will take time for that process to become something that it is, raising consciousness of what is our calling versus career. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that most of the people, and there are statistics that can go with that, start with the career until they go through a journey of self-discovery. And that comes with knowing your passion, knowing what drives you towards a certain profession, what drives you towards certain things. So the thing that you gravitate towards is the thing that will help you to indeed get to know what your calling is. As you follow your passion, as you follow your dream, just like the show talks about dreams to destiny, that's where you get to uncover what your dream is. It's like a flower, like a lotus, that will be opened slowly and gradually. So it could be that 90+ percent of people may not know what their career, their calling is in their 20s, or in their teens or 40s, etc., because they have that process that they have to go through. So that's what I would like to say to that for now.
And you said a very interesting point that it's something that you gravitate towards, and that's an important clue, an important key of how does a person even find what their calling is to kind of probably look into what are they gravitating towards, even while they are pursuing their career, perhaps. And before we just go into maybe like the next point, I just want to share to anyone who's watching right now, in case you have a question in your mind, do I have a unique purpose or a unique calling? I just want to affirm, actually all three of us would like to affirm that you were put together very intentionally by your Creator, and you have a unique purpose. You have a purpose and a calling. It's not only unique, it's also very important and very significant, and the world needs it. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mireille. That was a very beautiful way to introduce some of your thoughts. So I would love you to, maybe build it further. But the question I want to pose is, so you gave a general, a general understanding of how somebody can actually find their calling. But I would love to hear from you. How did Mireille Karera discover her calling? What's your internal compass? Like, is there a guiding force? Is there a voice? And if I can also add further, was it something you knew as a child? Because knowing your life journey a bit, Mireille, I do know that before you came back to the country of Rwanda and started Kora, your amazing coaching academy, you had a high-flying career with the corporate world in Dubai, in London, with some of the world's leading financial institutions. And at one point, you decide to almost call it quits or take a shift, and then come back to your, if I can say, your country of origin or that area where at once you had to flee as a family, as a refugee to another country. I mean, I would not call this sheer luck or coincidence. There has to be something more in your life for all this to happen. So what has that experience or journey been for you? And maybe if somebody is watching and asking that question, I mean, I can relate with what you guys are talking about. I also know I'm born for something bigger than myself, or larger than who I am right now. But I'm just clueless. I don't know what is the first step to take. So could you just speak into that?
Thank you for giving context to the question. And to build up on what I said earlier about the process, you're right. I think it makes sense to kind of give an overview as to what was my process, because my process is different to your process, Jane, and it is different to Joey's and also the audience's process, because it is unique. It is tailored to your fingerprint, to your eyesight, and your gifts and the talents, etc. So for me, the journey, I don't think I knew per se what I would be doing today back when I was 5 or 10 or etc. But that's something that came with time. So currently I'm in Africa, and I left Africa when I was 18 and only returned 20 years later. But the 20 years I've spent in Europe, in the Middle East, and some other countries on the continent of Africa, there was always a pulling. Talking about that gravity, there was always a pulling that made me kind of wonder why I was born Rwandan, even though I never lived in my country. I never was born in my country. I was born a refugee, but there was that identity that was connected to the destiny, which is never a coincidence. So picture that. While I was all over the world, I always knew that I had to do something. I didn't know what that thing was for my country. So that was one of the first things. And as I said, we blossom, we grow, and the different experiences that we get from different job opportunities or career opportunities will be nicely orchestrated for them to lead you to the point where you realize, aha, this is what I was supposed to do. This is the journey I had to take in order for me to get here, so that I can reach the final point, which, to be honest, like you said, Jane, I think I know, but I don't know what it would look like. But I know for sure that I'm aligned with a calling. I am aligned, and I said yes to the calling. But to get to the point where you are aligned with who you are, what you were born to do, it takes time. It takes that process. But also, for me to answer concretely, there was a turning point. So some people call it a tipping point or awakening moment. Depending on the circles or where your audience is, there are different words to describe that aha moment, that click that happens in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit, in your soul. For me, that turning point was when I used to live in Dubai, and I got saved. I got to know my Savior, my God. And slowly, that's when I started to ask questions. So that self-discovery journey I mentioned was for me to answer why. Why am I Rwandan, but yet I never lived in Rwanda? Why am I doing this? Why am I blessed with this career? Why? But other people aren't. Why this? Why that? And as I started to do that, but also being active, I think it is important, yes, to ask questions, but also to act. in order for you to find the answers, and also in order for you to get to those answers that would take you to the next point. So for me, when I was in Dubai, that's where I got to meet my creator, in the sense of, spiritual awakening, and also get to know my life verse in the Bible. For those who read the Bible, it is Ephesians 2:10, which talks about how we are created in Christ Jesus, for us to, as His workmanship, for us to do good works that were predestined before time, so that we can walk in them. So that's what I got to know that verse. I know that I am predestined to do something. And also I understood why, even in dreams, speaking about dreams, like night dreams, I would always see myself in Africa, while I spent 20 years, of my first 20 years of my adult life in Europe, but I would always see myself at night in dreams in Africa. So there were a lot of clues that pointed to the fact that I needed to come back and do something. Now, with the coaching, it is a process that came with the professional development, because I was put into places where I could train, I could develop people, so I got that skill. And when I realized that it will be more needed in Africa right now, so that's where I felt that there was no way I could stay in the comfort of the Middle East. And I jumped. And that jump is something, as you said, Jane, that could cost, I guess, the career, because when you're doing good and you are in a comfortable place, I really had to make adjustments and also make sacrifices to what I knew was good for me, but not for the people I believe I was called to serve, either in the current capacity or the future one, which I am yet to discover, because it is a process. We have not fully blossomed to the fullness of who we've been made to be. So I'll pause here, Jane, just to see if there's anything you would like for me to clarify more on my process and how it started.
That was such a beautiful way you just put it all together, and I do completely agree with you, Mireille. It's been both of our life journeys as well, because for us to know what are we born for or made for, I need to know who is my creator, who made me. Like, he knows the design, the destiny, the purpose much better than what my peanut brain can fathom or understand. So thank you so much for sharing that.
I want to build on something that you said, Mireille, that it's not going to be, your calling is not going to be absolutely clear right in the beginning. You're going to get a few clues. Like you said, you got a few dreams, and you also had this thought inside of you that there's a reason why I'm successful while the others from my nation are not like me in this regard. So it was almost like you didn't have the entire puzzle figured out, but there were some pieces that were coming into place. Like you started getting the training development, for example, and that was one piece of the puzzle. So initially, when a person has a very kind of a vague or a blurry idea of their calling, how does one make that step? Because you don't have everything figured out, and you have to take a leap of faith, and so you have to leave behind the familiar, the well-known, and step into the unknown, so to speak. And you have to do that for it to become clearer at the next stage. So could you talk about that process, how it was for you, and how it was mentally before you made that decision?
Absolutely. Thank you for that really, really good question. So the how in, picking up the call, as I always say, is also a process, because we don't get to know it immediately, but there is that intuition that we all have, the intuition, that voice, that inkling that tells us that even though we are comfortable here, there is perhaps this option that I need to explore. And if you listen to that, that's great. But chances are that 98% of the time, you will hesitate to let go of your dream, of that intuition that is going to be your point A before you get to uncover what's behind point A. So, so it really takes resolve, it takes courage, but also it takes to write down those recurring thoughts. So for me, I have developed, because I'm a coach, and what I'm saying is what I also practice. So I developed a discipline for me to sit down at a specific point in time in the week on Saturdays to really write down those thoughts, those dreams, those desires, the things that I wish to accomplish, which will bring me joy. And joy is actually a clue. Whatever that brings you joy is actually the inclination that you should go to, because if you don't follow that intuition, which brings you happiness to think about what you wish to do, then you may, make a lot of money, have a wonderful, job, position of leadership, resources, but you will not be fulfilled. You will be unhappy. Why? Because you will still think about that thing, that hobby, quote unquote, a hobby, that people tend to minimize the intuition or the leading to a hobby. So I would say to your audience, pay attention to your hobbies. Maybe your hobbies will lead you to the next thing. So for me, my hobby was to coach, to inspire, to motivate people. So that's how it started, with wanting to become a motivator. And then I got trained to coach, and obviously motivation is the outcome of it. And once I got the certification, I knew that this is what I want to do for a very long time. So that led me to making the right decision, to invest into setting up an organization that will be focused on, coaching, motivating, speaking, etc., parallelly to what I was doing and I was successful in. So, and that then in its turn led me to believe and have the courage that I can do it. Maybe I need to jump and become an entrepreneur, set up the business that I need in order for me to give, to self-actualize, as they call it. And it's only after doing that, and we are maybe 3 years into the process, only in doing that, I had the courage to relocate back to Africa, because that's where I saw the greater need, and our purposes and careers, our callings are there to solve a problem, right? So that's what I saw a need, and I made provision for me to leave the Middle East and move back to Africa, without really knowing that there was something even bigger. And this is where, step by step, if you are obedient with that first voice, first acting on this, that's where you actually discover there is more, there's bigger. It doesn't mean it will be easier, but there is more that gets unfolded on your way. And as I actually got to Rwanda, that's where I realized, hang on. So yes, I want to coach people. Yes, I want to motivate them, but there is no coaching academy in the country. There has never been one. Yet we acquire services from, neighboring countries like Kenya, South Africa in the south, UK, America even. I was like, okay, so perhaps there is more that can be done. How about a coaching academy to ensure that more people are served, and that, we get to grow, we get to leave poverty, we get to mature as a nation, as a continent. So one thing led to another. And that's how the academy came to be 3 years ago. Actually, no, in 2018. So we're celebrating an additional year now. And then obviously it is serving the nation, because while we know that our callings are unique, but God gives us our calling to serve others, to serve the nations, to serve and do the good works that He had already predestined for us before we got to know that. So is the academy the last thing I will do? Probably not, but I'm faithful with what I have in my hand. I am stewarding the current assignment. So maybe to sum up, I would say yes to the first assignment. Say yes to your first assignment might be, I believe I can do it. That's it. Once you do that, the second assignment will be, how will I do it? And then you get more wisdom. And then after that, there will be more unfolding.
Awesome. Wow, Mireille. So I just want to build up on a word I saw you repeat a few times in your last point, which was courage. I don't know whether you noticed that, but you mentioned courage a few times. So share with us a bit more, like, what is courage? Is courage an inborn gift, or is courage a mindset or a behavior or a learned quality, or a gift that can be built or developed? People who we believe have truly embraced their calling, I would say they are the courageous ones, because to be a courageous person, it involves an element of risk taking. It's a non-negotiable. I mean, I remember in my own life as a young child, I was a very fearful child. Now, when I grew up, I became an adult, and as you were mentioning, I also got to know my Savior, and the God I know, the living God, Jesus, is a very courageous God who started imparting and instilling courage in me. Now, but and then I knew He has called me to do stuff in this life which involves courage. But what was inside me was fear. So I had to be very honest, I'm still on a journey. I'm working on the space where I want to be a more courageous person to do what God has called me to do in this life. And especially, let's say, you're in a particular path, and all of a sudden, that your path is going to shift, or you're supposed to leave the known or the comfortable life or a lifestyle and do something new. It takes courage, and I don't think all of a sudden courage is not something you can just pick up from a toolbox and use it for a season. It needs to be inbuilt within us, right? So at least that's my perspective. So I would love to hear from you. What is courage for you, and how do you stay courageous? How do you grow being that courageous person in this world where most 9 out of 10 times when people are, you talked about that intuition, you talked about that voice within you which leads you to do stuff bigger than you, because of a lack of courage, most of the times all these saboteur voices come inside of those dreamers or those people, and they start saying, sorry, this is not going to work, I'm going to go back to what is known. Probably it's fear of rejection, fear of being judged, fear of making mistakes. Speak a bit more into the space.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Jane. Think without courage, you can't achieve anything, particularly when it comes to fulfilling your calling, getting to know your calling, and living on purpose. And in fact, even if you're working in your career, you do need that courage, because if you are after a promotion, you will need some boldness and courage to ask for that, right? So courage is a currency that flows in our lives. So either we go with the flow or we go against the flow. It starts with saying yes, and also believing that your dream means something. So also valuing those inklings, because only by putting a value and believing that if your dream is positive and it is to help others, that means that you can achieve it. If you can see it, as they say, in your mind, you can see it with your eyes, and others can see it as well. So yes, it will take courage, which means that I think there are statistics that vary. Some people say that majority of people on earth actually don't follow their dreams. Probably 98% of the time they don't follow their dreams. Why? Because of lack of courage, or because of the stress and the risk and all of those things that come with wanting for us to follow our dreams. So it's a little bit counterintuitive in a way, but it is designed that way. It is designed for us to blossom, because courage is like that sunlight that you need for the flower to blossom and bloom. So that's what I have seen, that majority actually give up. And when they give up, that means the world misses out on what they were here to do, what they were born to do, what they were made for, as you were saying. So that's more or less the professional statistics that I have. But because you and I are Christians, I actually, prayed into it and wondered, what does the Bible say? What do scriptures talk about fulfilling our callings and missions? Are there any stats I can go by? And interestingly enough, as I was actually wondering, I kind of had the story in the Bible with, the Israelites being pulled out of captivity in Egypt, and God making plans for them to inherit what was their dream, to be free, right? So I got led to read the passage where there were 12 spies that were sent to really just visualize and see the dreams with their own eyes. So 12 were sent and came back and gave reports. And 10 of them said, no, this is too difficult for us. It is, we're not going to make it, because the people in that land are, stronger than us. But only 2 people believed, and only those 2 people inherited their dreams and they got to be there. So the stats will be somewhere around 76 people. If I go by the 2 by 12, that's roughly 76, or somewhere between 76 and 80. So, and the same is true today with the calling. So courage, I would say, it's like the software that we have within us that really makes up, the actions, which will be the hardware. I actually have got a phone. So imagine that, you've got your iPhone, and the iPhone is really what you must do. That's the what, the actions, the choices, the decisions. But the courage will be the app, apps that you need for each purpose, each use, etc. So you can't have the hardware without the software. And yes, that's inborn, and that is coming from the heart. The word courage in Latin means core, like corazon in Spanish, which is core, courage meaning from the heart. So if you lead your life from the heart, that is already a good step forward, and the courage will lead you to the mind, believing. So yes, there is a process. I hope that really is building your audience up to know that nobody figures it out. Nelson Mandela didn't figure it out immediately. He went through trouble. He was in jail for 27 years. It's only at the end of that he knew that he had to go through it to save a nation. he had to go through it because his pain was woven into, you know, the destiny of a whole nation. So one way it could be positive, if I can just maybe add something, a different perspective, because what we shared is a perspective, and the perspective of following your positive dreams, etc. But there is also another side to the coin, which I think we must do service, good service to audience, to say that sometimes you enter into your calling through pain, okay? Through pain. So there is pleasure and there is pain. Sometimes you are forced into your calling, and that will be, you know, maybe the divine appointment, like the example I've just given of Nelson Mandela, where he was following his legal practice because he was a lawyer, but then that led him into triggering his calling with being in jail for 27 years. And the same thing, I guess, would have happened with Martin Luther King, who, through the hardship, he unlocked a whole movement of, you know, social justice and, you know, a lot of breakthroughs for African Americans in America. But that was not necessarily a positive outcome from that sense, but he was living his dream, which he only got to fulfill beyond him.
So basically what you are kind of trying to share is that when we train ourselves to lead our lives or lead ourselves from our heart and not just head, the seeds of courage starts getting to bloom. And you also mentioned about pain, Mireille. So this one question coming into my mind. I mean, you are a successful leader in many ways. You're a well-respected entrepreneur in the continent of Africa and around the world. You know, you get to train and certify coaches across the world now. I mean, that's no small deal. And you have also, if I may say, won some amazing awards, global awards. Like you've been been selected as one of the top 25 best entrepreneur women in Africa. But I'm sure it's not been always the bed of roses journey for you, Mireille. So, and I'm also reminded of this quote by a leader, which he said that he has seen that many times it's not the persecution and pain which destroys a leader, but it's the success. And I thought it was so profound and powerful. So share with us what are, you know, some of the ways you keep yourself grounded and be who you are, the authentic Mireille Karera, in the times and seasons of testing, persecution or trial, and in those times of where fame comes to you, favor comes to you, and you know, you become this influential known person. Is there a balance? What does it mean for you?
Clearly, everyone goes through that stage of pain, and I have gone through that. So if you have heard everything I said only to the point until you just asked that question, you would think that my life is perfect, which is far from being the case, and far from being the case when it comes to following your calling. In fact, when you follow your calling, the first thing you've got to do is pick up your cross. That's where you realize that you do have a cross, a cross you were not aware of before. And for me, while I appreciate the awards and accolades, etc., I think one of the greatest things I am so is the training, right? So while I was following my career, back to the topic, while I was following my career, yes, there were some, you know, pains, and some of the pains where, oh, I didn't get that pay rise versus my colleague, or they got this promotion and I didn't get this promotion. So it was really superficial and self-serving. So that was the pain in the career part. But when I look at or compare with the pain in fulfilling the calling, because you know it's on you, I really am filled with gratitude that I did not give up, like the 98% of people on earth that I mentioned, or 80% according to the Bible, because I can now see why people do that because I have gone through it, and that's why from that space I can coach them, having lived through the testing. There is a saying that says that when you do business or you are in entrepreneurship, but I think it is, transcends even entrepreneurship, there is that that valley of death. That's what they call it in the business world. They call it the valley of death that you must cross. And the statistics around that are when you start a business, it is between 2 to 3 years of starting up. A lot of companies die because the startups, I think it's 80%. So it's usually 80-20 rule or a bit higher. In fact, in Africa, it's 90% of businesses that fail, that do not go to the next level. And that is real. It is real. My business almost died. I think it was in the crossing of the second year of Kora, before we discovered the opportunity for the academy, which was in the third year. So after crossing those 2 years of trial, testing, and also training, because when we pick up our calling, we move from one state to another state. Meaning I have been a professional, I have been employed up until 2014, right? So becoming an entrepreneur is a different state, if I can call it that way. And I had to learn, I had to grow into that. And the best way you can grow in life, it's not the most pleasurable, but it's to go through hardship and to go through pain. So for me, to learn how to account properly, how to budget properly, how to hire the right staff, how to go after the market. Yes, I've had, sales experience, but there is a, difference between being part of a team and someone else lays down the targets versus you setting up the targets so that your company can exist and everyone can flourish. So I had to go through those stages of growth during that period of the valley of death, which sadly many people I have seen starting at the same time as me or before, had to unfortunately drop and continue with employment, with their career, because it was easier, because it was good to settle. So there are risks involved, but you get that courage when you know that you are in tune, you are aligned with where you need to be, what you need to do, and who you are doing this for, and obviously why you are doing this for. So that's what has kept me grounded. And I can tell you there are times that, so many people, I think there's a lot we can say if I don't take so much time, but part of the reasons why many people don't also continue, it is because, as you said, Jane, there are so many saboteur voices, and those can be your own thoughts, which are negative, but also the people, the environment around you that is projecting their fears on you because they see you're not progressing initially. So they need to have that grace to believe with you that you can achieve that, even if nobody has ever done that before in your environment. And for me, I can tell you so many stories where people thought I had lost it, to leave, a very high-paying job in Dubai, to come and start something that has never been done, that seemingly will not succeed, right? And I would have said, okay, maybe I need to listen to this friend or that family member. But had I done that, I would have never discovered that. And that is also, by the way, now helping the same people who had said, give up, go back to employment. So that's really, I hope, something that is building up your audience to follow their dreams, follow the intuition, and really be willing to take the risk no matter what. And here is the thing, if you do lead with courage, if you do believe in that, you may fall, but you will win. You will win, and everybody else will also benefit from that, because that's the very reason why you are breathing right now.
While you were speaking, Mireille, you did touch several times on heart and mind, of the way your heart sees something, especially when you talked about courage, the fact that it comes from your heart. You have to see through your heart. In our show, we have always focused on the importance of having a healed heart and a healed mind in order to convert your dream into a destiny.
Right.
And when I say healed heart, I'm talking about value, how much you value yourself, knowing that you are valuable in spite of what may have been done to me, or what I may have done. We are still valuable. So having that sense of restored value. So has there been a healing journey in your life which has helped you have a healed heart and healed mind? Maybe it's been a part of the journey, but could you speak a bit to that?
So clearly, with the nature of what I do, which is to encourage and coach and motivate people, I always work and strive towards, bouncing back whenever things don't go my way, because that very purpose is really to help others get to know what they were born to do. So concretely, I did have to find healing even in this entrepreneurship journey I'm on, because there were a lot of questions that I had to answer for myself. So why have I been successful in the career almost effortlessly, if I can call it that way? But now, why is it really difficult to push through? Now I do it as an entrepreneur. So there was obviously emotions attached to that, and also emotion attached to the people who didn't believe in me, right? So that was the biggest one. And I can see believe at the back of your screen. So initially it was really challenging that the people close to me didn't believe, could not see what I could see in my mind's eyes, in my heart, in the dream, when you talk to people and then kind of block, and they tell you the opposite of what you know is true for you. So that process has been really painful, probably the most difficult one for me, to have to convince people that I am not doing the wrong thing. It is a process. And it's part of the journey. It is part of the journey that you will have both the encouragers and also the saboteurs, because it strengthens you. It also tests your dream, whether you really want it or it's just a hobby that you pick up and let go. So yes, I had to heal. Yes, I realized in hindsight that that journey, that season, I had to go through it. And in fact, what I am rejoicing about now is the fact that even the people who say that I was making the wrong choice are the people I'm serving, and they finally agreed to be served, and they finally see the value of what I do. So yes, that's really one concrete example I can give. And also your audience will also be going through that. So a big portion of giving up is the support or lack thereof that will make you want to let go of your dreams and following your calling.
Wow, beautiful. Even as I was just listening to Mireille, I even wonder sometimes, community and finding our tribe is so important for all of us as we discover and pursue our calling actively. So even as we are coming to the close of this chat series, Mireille, I can't definitely let you go without talking a bit more about your amazing coaching academy, Kora Coaching Academy. Could you share a bit more on how you're using coaching to live out your calling in the season, because I know one way you like to describe or define Mireille Karera is I'm a woman called to interpret people's dreams into real terms, and I believe that's your motto for the Kora Coaching Academy as well. So why coaching, why Kora Coaching, and what is it you're trying to do in this space?
It is a really good question because at our academy, Kora Coaching and Business Academy, and I think your audience can look it up on our social media or our websites to see more about what we offer to not only individuals, but also businesses and future coaches around the world. The reason for the academy to exist and also the wider group of Kora to exist is really to help people know that they were born to do something. And it does take that support, that community we're referring to. And the community of coaches are the people you can always call upon to help you, empower you to believe in yourself and to believe that you have something to offer. So as you said a moment ago, I usually call myself a dream interpreter because that's what coaches do. They help you interpret your dreams into real term, in real term, because through a thought-provoking process, you are able to bounce ideas and thoughts at your coach and someone that will help you in whatever area that you want to evolve and pursue your dreams in. So what we do at Kora Coaching and Business Academy is to equip people to be able to help others, because as I said at the beginning with my own journey, I realized that people don't know that they were born to be something powerful, a world changer, a transformation agent. And for you to actually even do that self-discovery journey, you need to have someone that supports that community, that believes in you. And your coach can do that. Your mentor can do that. And, we teach people how to do that, but also we provide that platform for individuals such as your audience members to, to be able to call on our coaches to help them know what their value is, what they were born to do, but also over and above the soft skills, we also teach leadership, business skills, sales and business coaching as well. So the program is holistic. It looks like at you as a person and you as part of an organization and you part of a community or an economy and your impact in the world, because a human being sitting somewhere in the remote places of Rwanda in Africa, or somewhere in the remote places of India or Asia or Europe, has the same potential as someone sitting in the White House or in Champs-Élysées or somewhere else. But it takes that person, that coach, that someone who believes in you to say, off you go, start now. So that's really why we exist, and we hope to be able to interpret more dreams of people, because indeed, as your program says, your dreams will lead you to destiny.
Wow. Well, what a beautiful way to end this conversation or this episode. As Mireille rightly said, your dreams are valid. All of us are born with such a unique dream and purpose and passion. And even as you heard Mireille saying, no matter you're born in a palace or a hut, or maybe the worst tragic or evil trauma was done to you, maybe even you did something. But there is a living God out there who loves to gift all of us new beginnings, new opportunities to pursue our calling with daring hearts, because the world is actually waiting for all of us to be awakened to our true identity and our true calling, that the world can become a better place. And if you need a mentor, you need a coach, you need a listening ear, if you're struggling, you're hurting, you don't need to be alone, because isolation most of the times leads to slow death. But a supporting community always leads us into a path of growth and thriving. So we're here for you. Feel free to write to Mireille, feel free to write to us. We'll be back again soon with another amazing guest to learn and grow together in this wonderful journey called life. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.